Don't worry. The first 45 minutes will be about the fly. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to a special bonus episode where we're going to recap the VP debate. And Corey already's done that. So good night, everybody.
That's it. That's all of the substantial stuff that was done tonight.
Well, it was such a low bar. Are they going to shout and talk over each other? No? Okay, well, that's a debate then. Good enough. Thank you.
Pence is just going to continue rambling on until the point that's like 9.5 sentences later. Like, they both did it. I think what disappointed me most about this debate is just that neither one of them would answer any question.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, this is the opportunity for so many people who are watching these debates to finally get answers to questions that get avoided most of the time because somebody is there to hold them to account. And neither side here really had any interest in answering straightforward questions. Like, it started off right away when the subject of the age of each candidate was brought up and saying, like, have you had a conversation with the candidate about it? And Pence went first, and he spent the majority of his time talking about something that was discussed in a previous question.
Yeah.
And then Kamala went, and then she just started talking about her record and how proud she was to be vice president, or to be nominated as vice president. And it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like Kamala was playing a three deep safety setup, like a no deep pass setup. Like, she wasn't gonna let
screw it up.
Yeah, it was no doubles defense. It was like keep it in front of you. Don't let Pence get any like big haymaker shots, and he didn't. Like, but at the same time, it just felt like Kamala was like, not lying necessarily, but also not as interested in the truth as Pence was. Like, both of them were so like whatever about every question that came their way, whether or not they were going to answer it. So,
well, I mean, I think for Pence, it was like, all right, so Donald covered none of the actual politics of it. So I need to actually get to the politics of things. So I'm going to ignore the questions. I have 20, they had 20 questions, I think, right? It was 10-minute segments, 90 minutes. So, 9. So 9 topics. It's like, all right, I'm going to ignore the 9 questions. I'm going to go over these 9 things. That's what I got to cover because Donald covered none of it. And then Kamala was in the position of being like, well, either I actually answer the question or I have to respond to what he's talking about, which isn't the question. So right. I guess I'm just going to, respond instead. So
for Pence, though, I think the problem is that he had an opportunity to sort of be the rational Republican in the room, to make it seem like he was the normal, everyday Joe Blow who is a Republican somewhere in this country. And having to defend Trump's record makes that difficult to do. But I think he sort of did the best he possibly could, given the circumstances, of trying to seem like a normal, everyday Republican. And
they got Rick Santorum up defending Republicans on CNN right now. So
yeah, I saw him earlier.
The well's not deep.
Yeah, I saw him earlier, basically saying like, well, I think he did a masterful job, and like, our relationship in the world is so much better now than it was before. And I'm just like, God, Rick, you gotta fucking chill on it. But honestly, I was watching it, and I've never noticed it as much, I guess, as I did tonight. But Pence was basically, it feels like he had, in debates of the past, you would work on certain lines. Like, at some point, this is going to come up, and we're going to slam him with this line, like a workshopped bit. And it felt like everything Pence said was a workshop bit. But he had like 40 of them in his quiver. And at any point, if the question seemed anywhere like it was relevant to what was being said, he was just going to say the pre-prepared bit.
Gonna scoop it in there. I'm gonna get it in if I can.
Yeah. And it's like I don't know. I think if you think about it in terms of how this is what it was different to me about this debate, is I've never thought about it so much as this is just being played to Fox News people. Like, when they're going to recap the debate, they're going to largely just show Mike Pence's answer. They're not going to show the question that came before. So you get to see just the answer. And then they'll just cut the worst parts of whatever Kamala said and say, like, is this the person we want in charge of if Biden dies and he's 77 and like coronavirus and like just completely ignoring the fact that Trump had COVID as of this weekend. Like, it's a incredibly amazing turn of events that we have, that we are in this situation where it doesn't seem like it's important for Pence to try and win back votes. And that's really at the heart of the issue, I think, right now, which is Biden is ahead, you know, like even
by a lot.
Well, Rasmussen, who's usually like all Trump all the time, had him at 12 points up on Trump. So even if you think that as a Democrat, you probably need to carry 6% just to be able to overcome an electoral college disadvantage.
Yeah, that would be historically you need at least 3 to 4% just to beat the electoral college. So.
Right. But I mean, like, you know, even Hillary, you would think that 6 is now sort of like the number you're shooting for at the very least. But Biden has double that. So Biden is at plus 12 if we're going off just that Rasmussen poll, which is already pretty favorable to Trump. And you have to think, you got to pick off some of these people. You got to bring them back to the fold, because some people have left Trump to go to Biden. Now, what can you do to bring some of these people back and make them think that it's going to be a regular Republican administration? And I think that Pence was doing what he could to sound like, you know, whoever on Fox News they trust, and make it sound like it's a normal everyday presidency when clearly it's not.
Well, I think they also he did too much of trying to be Trump at the same time. I'm going to go bang down this door, even though I know and you know that it's not true. Like the Green New Deal, and like how many times did Biden say last week? Like, no, not the Green New Deal. Buy my Green Deal, where I'm going to take some bits of that, the bones of it, and we're going to build something better around it, something more centrist and conservative. And it's just like, I think Kamala, to her credit, didn't even address that. It was just like, no, it's not the Green New Deal. It's Biden's New Deal. It's not the Green New Deal. It's Biden's Green Deal, or whatever their little thing is. And just like, now I'm going to move on because we don't need to bang this drum anymore. I'm just going to make sure I hit that, and that's all. But again, not answering the question. That question was probably about healthcare, and somehow they ended up on the Green New Deal. And I got to ask you, as a Republican, as a recovering Republican, if you will, like, I remember you being very pro John Kerry, at least at the beginning, before the whole Alaskan governor incident. What is happening to that party? Wait, yes. What did I say?
Kerry.
Oh yeah, Kerry was before that, right? No, Kerry is a Democrat. Never.
Yeah, I liked McCain when he was running. And you know, it's not that I disliked Obama. It's just that I was following the election. I was going to let it take me where it took me. Once McCain put Palin in there, and it was clear that Palin was not ready, then that crystallized my vote. I wasn't going to be able to vote for John McCain, just out of the off chance that this woman ended up in the White House somehow.
Yeah, and like, this debate is one of those strong points where people would just be like, oh no, she should not be one 70-year-old man's heartbeat away from the presidency.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to that point, I feel like if she would have just answered questions truthfully and not evaded as much as Pence did, then the conversation right now would be like, she took tough questions and she answered them. Pence avoided all the questions. It would further the idea that even if something awful were to happen to Biden if he was elected president, that you have somebody who is truthful and honest and will answer questions and will be, because, you got to think about this also in terms of the situation in which we would possibly lose a president. Now, I'm speaking in hypotheticals here, but I mean, like, presidents have been assassinated. Presidents have died of illness. Presidents have died of old age.
70-year-old guys during a pandemic.
Oh, I know,
One of them has it.
But I'm saying, like, think about, like, part of the thing about, like, LBJ being vice president was that he was a strong moral leader who was more trusted than Kennedy, and they going in at the very least, and having him be the next in line once Kennedy was assassinated was a calming influence on the nation. You know, like it.
Well,
it
yeah,
helped.
the CIA said when we kill this guy, we know that there's a really strong leader right there behind him.
Yeah, I think that Kamala didn't do what I would hope she would do, which is make it seem like she is going to be something different than what we're getting from sort of the general Democratic line. And for all the times that, Trump or Pence talk about, like, this radical liberal expansion that's coming. He mentioned AOC by name like 3 times, I think, during the debate.
Right, banging the drum, yeah.
Once calling her a senator for whatever reason, saying you co-sponsored this bill in the Senate with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I'm just like, I'm pretty sure she's a congresswoman from New York, but well, whatever. We can let those little flubs go every once in a while. But like, it was constantly about trying to paint Kamala and Joe as these like far left, communists basically, and that's just not anywhere close to where either one of them is. Like it's just
the thing though is that Kamala did herself a credit though, because one, on several things that she ran differently on as a presidential candidate, she fell in line in this VP debate. Like fracking was one of them. The Green New Deal obviously is one of them. Healthcare is one of them. And just basically doing what a VP is supposed to do, with something that Palin had a hard time doing, which is I'm going to fall in line with what the presidential candidate is saying, and I'm going to tout that when somebody asks me. And everyone understands the hypocrisy of I'm saying something different than I said earlier, but we're going to let it go because that's what the president says.
Well, Palin was interesting too, because she, much like Mike Pence, is very Christian.
Yes.
And there was a diametric opposite in the other chair with McCain and Trump here. Not to say that McCain wasn't a religious person, but he was, he sort of had the maverick title to him more. He wasn't thought of as like a faith leader per se.
Listen, you spend 7 years in a Viet Cong torture camp, and I think you stop believing in God. That's what I gotta believe. Is that,
or if you believe in it, you really believe.
One or the other, I guess. Yeah.
Like either way, there's
let's try this. Let's put the senator from Utah. What's his name? He also ran for president. Damn. It's
Romney.
been a very long day. Romney. Let's put Romney in a Viet Cong torture camp and see if he believes in God more or less when he comes out, and then we'll take bets on it. We'll see how
if he believes in it more, then it was for real. That's the way I feel.
Well, and I just watched the torture report, so maybe we don't need a Viet Cong. Maybe we just need to give him to the CIA.
Well, I was the thing that fascinated me most, I think, about Pence here is one of the questions that he avoided was about Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And you would think that in almost any other circumstance in the world, as somebody asked, like, if you were the governor of Indiana, would you enforce Roe? Would you put in new restrictions against Roe v. Wade? He completely ignored it, which I thought was interesting because that's right in his wheelhouse for something to talk about. But it's also not working for him as a electoral, like calculus.
Well, they're coming to Jesus on the 70% of Americans think that a woman's right to choose in some way, shape, or form should be maintained.
Yeah.
It's the extreme. I mean, Mike Pence is a member of this, but it's the extreme right who thinks that restrictions are important. And they are seeing like, okay, we got the extreme right. That's fine. The 36% support that Donald Trump has is those people.
Right.
What we need are the ones, the New Hampshire Republicans, the Eastern Shore Republicans. We got to get those guys in, the ones who are like, listen, I'm a Republican, but my daughter's got to go to college. So if bad decisions are made, it's up to her. I mean, it's up to me, but decisions are going to be made. I would need the right to make that decision, Mike. Christianity aside,
I don't understand how he will speak so passionately about how this is murder and this is wrong, and like obviously that's a belief that he has, but like it's weird that you wouldn't even. It'd be like if I was on a debate and they were just like, like if you were manager of the Orioles, what would you do? And I would just like, I want to talk more about that last question about income tax reform. It's like you've never imagined me doing that. Yeah, it'd be like, oh, please let me talk about baseball for a little bit.
How many minutes? 2 uninterrupted. Great. Okay.
Kamala, brace yourself because I got some opinions. I just I don't feel like anybody won tonight too. That's the other thing. Like I think Kamala probably did more to, it might be like a 55-45 type decision for Kamala, I think, or there might be just a straight political lean that goes into how these two candidates are perceived. Because, I mean, like, Trump has, 40% support on a charitable day. So, like, if it falls 60-40, that's just kind of like party lines as opposed to her winning the debate,
Well, but I mean, if you judge it by independents, which apparently CNN is polling a bunch of independents only, she won by a swimming margin.
Yeah, I mean,
really high. So
she's more likable than Pence. That's part of the problem here, and Joe. We talked about after his debate performance how he kind of looked lost from time to time. Like he had he carried the what the fuck face a little bit too, like, openly.
But I mean,
Kamala
rightfully.
was doing well. Yeah, I mean, like, Trump had a fucking plane crash of a debate performance the other day. So I mean, like,
maybe he had a fever or something. I don't know.
I mean, it seems like he's dealing with something. Who knows what it could? But like, with Kamala, I just she does well in these little moments. Like, she's looking at Pence and she's smiling, but she's also smiling in such a way like you're fucking lying through your teeth. Mm-hmm. And like being able to, I know that like some of these stations do the one person on the screen at the time when they're talking. Yeah. So like, I think Fox News was doing this, at least during the presidential debate. I knew they were, where if Trump was speaking, Trump was on the screen. If Biden was speaking, Biden was on the screen. CNN was doing the dual screen the whole time, where it was, you always saw their faces regardless of whether or not they were speaking.
Or the full body, but what you would see them both.
You would see both of them at the same time, or some version of both of them at the same time if they went to like the alternate angle, like looking down the line or something like that.
Yeah.
But, like her reactions and stuff like that, her body language was better. I felt like she was more welcoming. Like, there was that one moment early on where it was like meant to say Senator Harris, but it was just like Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, Senator Harris. It's like, that's okay. I'm Kamala. You can do that. It's not a. And she's like, no, it's Senator Harris. I'm not.
She also called her Madam Vice President at one point, and then she was like, Madam Vice Senator. And I was like, oh, all right, tipping the hat a little bit. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that, some of these things, back in the day, I used to watch people fuck up a little bit on a debate like this, and I would just be like, haha, they don't know what they're talking about. But at the same time, like, the more and more you do live things like this, the more you realize that there's a chance for me to just be like, Vice President Kamala Harris, and just not even realize I said it, and then somebody brings it up later. I'm like, did I do that? Much like the John Kerry thing you said earlier. When it just happens sometimes. Like, you can't be on point all the time.
Well, I think the other part is that those elections, we also just had a higher standard. We have just slowly eroded that standard as we go along. Not that Obama, Romney wasn't like two professional politicians going at it, but it also kind of had the air of like a little more laid back. Romney was trying to seem like he was as cool as Obama, so it gave the whole thing like a more relaxed feel.
Yeah.
And then Trump just has brought it to the whole like, no, we're going to sling mud the whole time, so it doesn't matter. And Biden dealt with that a little bit better. But I also think that, do you remember when Jim Webb was debating against Mike Pence?
Oh, no, it wasn't Jim Webb. Jim Webb was on the Democratic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been against Mike Pence. That was in the Democratic primary, the first debate. That was Hillary.
Oh, that was his
Biden,
bad performance. Yeah.
Jim Webb, O'Malley, and one other guy I can't remember off the top of my head.
But Jim Webb was Hillary's vice presidential.
No, that was Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine.
Yeah, another worthless
worthless senators, worthless white men.
Worthless person considered for the executive, yes.
Yeah. So Tim Kaine then. And Tim Kaine against Mike Pence, I just remember I remember Mike Pence like looking like he had it together. He was a professional politician. I know what I'm doing. Like, let's get it done. And I didn't see that this time. I saw him being on the defensive most of the time.
It was more just like I feel like a change in general attitude towards how you were going to present yourself, because you got to think that Pence used to be a radio host, not a particularly good one, but he knew how to do the thing of like carry on a conversation and like seem likable and do these things that you learn when you start broadcasting. And I feel like when he did the first vice presidential debate with Tim Kaine, he carried some of that with him, because there was like there was no Trump record to go against, so like he could literally just be like, it's a brand new day and Hillary's awful, and be good enough. And he was relaxed. Sucks. Yeah, he was just able to sort of play it off. And Tim Kaine is a very nervous debater. I feel like he just isn't like,
he's a nervous guy all in general. That's why I remembered him being Webb, because Webb did the same thing on the very first.
Webb was the one who was just like, am I ever going to get a chance to talk?
Yeah. That's right.
It's like, you've given 15 questions to Hillary and 15 questions to Bernie. I'm sitting over here like an asshole. It's like, well, Mr. Webb, you're not going to win. I don't know what to tell you.
We got to vet the real candidates, if you don't mind. Martin's only gotten 5 questions, and I mean, he barely deserves to be up here. I don't know what to tell you.
We saw what he did with them and said, maybe we don't need to have anybody else involved in this debate.
And then, if this is
third place, we're going to make a line here in the sand.
What's his name from Nebraska spoke up, and they're like, oh my God.
Oh, it was Lincoln Chafee. That was the other guy.
Lincoln Chafee. Yeah, he's not from Nebraska. No, he's not from Nebraska, right? No, am I confusing that because his name is Lincoln? I think I think Webb was from Nebraska or something like that, though.
Maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But Lincoln Chafee speaks up, and
none of these people have been heard from again. So
yeah, well, it's the end of your career. If Martin O'Malley finishes in front of you, you're bad luck. Sorry.
Sorry, you can't win president.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel like
we have a Mendoza line.
I had that memory of Mike Pence, and I guess I was expecting that guy to show up today. We haven't seen him for 4 years, but I was expecting him to be like, all right, time to put the big boy pants on. Let's go do this. Let's go kick this girl's ass. And then he just was like basically defensive the whole time. And Kamala, 60-40 split, by the way, per CNN, nationally, not just undecideds, but everyone, 60-40 split.
That would make sense to me, because I imagine that's more or less where the election is going. I mean, whether or not people vote to be able to bring it to that point is all up to the American people at this point. But
also, Mike Pence looks a lot less like a corpse in his promotional photo than he did on the stage today. I don't know if you thought that, but I thought he looked like a damn corpse.
The bloody eye does not help you, and that there's nothing you can really do about that. That's always the worst part about a bloody eye, is just like for a week or whatever, you just look like a psychopath. But like,
yeah. Well, who was it during the Olympics that had that going on? And they took him off the TV.
I don't remember.
Oh God, the main guy from NBC, the guy who does basketball, not Marv Albert, but the other guy who does basketball.
Oh, I don't remember.
That's gonna come. But he had like 2 really bloodshot eyes. And they were like, we got to get you off TV, man. You look like a freak. People can't handle it. But yeah, it's the bad luck, right? Like, who knows what happened? But he's like, you're like, oh, well.
Well, I mean, like, and just, speaking, like, Pence basically looks like central casting white guy, white politician, or middle manager or something like that, like. I imagine somebody looking like Mike Pence comes up to me and makes sure everything's going right at the Home Depot. Like he's just got that painted on his face. Now Kamala is not like some beauty queen, but she's a good-looking woman. And I remember at the beginning of the debate when I'm watching the two of them together, I'm just like, she's so radiant compared to he's so schlubby compared to her, even though he's got the perfectly like executed haircut and the like the ties on right. There was still something about him that just felt like it's not true because it's Mike Pence, but it just feels like he came here from a bender. Like he knew he had to be in Utah on Wednesday for the debate.
All right, let's get this done, huh?
And somebody sewed him into his suit and they just pushed him out there and he's just like, oh, what do I do? But the other part too is that his performance this time as opposed to last time was a lot more like high school debate or
Yeah.
like book report. Like it felt very like every question had to start with the like, thank you for yes, I would like to respond to that.
Yes.
Thank you. Like it just felt very stuffy in the same sense, you know, like, and I really don't know what the American people got from this too much, other than the fact that Pence is going to just do whatever it takes to appease Trump, because that was what this debate performance was. Just don't bury Trump.
Well, I mean, and honestly, going back to what I was saying before, I got a little bit of that Nixon Kennedy debate where I couldn't put my finger on it. I think you did. It was the perfectly cut hair and the perfectly fitting suit, and the man inside it just looking like death, basically. Yeah. That gave me the feeling of a viewing where it's like, you don't look good, but your hair is perfect and your suit is perfect. And I kind of expected him to like sit up out of a cast, like, hello, everyone. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a very real point. The Kennedy Nixon debate, famously, was the first debate that was on television.
Yeah.
And when they polled people about who they thought won the debate after the fact, the people who watched it on television said Kennedy in a landslide.
Yeah.
People who listened on the radio said Nixon did, not by as big of a landslide as the television audience did, but when you didn't have to see Nixon standing next to standing next to John F. Kennedy, who is like, in the eyes of many people, this like, you know, Adonis, like this beautiful man who you know, is the best looking president we've ever, you know, like all this sort of stuff. Like it had a very similar feeling. I felt like when I was watching this debate, like Kamala just looked better, looked more put together, looked like she was more prepared to think about her body language the whole time through, as opposed to Pence, who was just sort of, you know, like, I'm here for my book report. Like,
well, I think it goes to the age question, which neither of them answered, but I got the feeling of like Mike Pence is just another old white guy, a little younger than the white guy who's in charge now, but he's still an old white guy. But that whole radiance and like, I'm a younger feel, just like, I don't think she's that much younger either. She's what, in her like late 50s?
I think she's mid 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like she's that much younger, but it seemed a lot like it. And again, it could just be stuff that he can't control, but maybe I to the other part of the Nixon Kennedy thing, I don't think anyone listening on radio would have that opinion about this debate. I don't feel like either of them really like nailed the issue. It's not he really answered that question, got it down. Like, no, I heard the same talking points I hear from them all the time. So it is what it is. And I, like I said, the playing cover 2 for Kamala was okay. She just had to not screw it up. Like, listen, we are up by 16 points on moderate surveys. Hey, Rasmussen has us up by 12. Do not fuck this up. That's all you got to do. Don't fuck this up. We can carry this ball.
You're not we do not need an Atlanta Falcons situation here. Let's finish this game. Like,
look, I got beast mode coming up next week. Back. I just need you to put the ball in the end zone. That's all. All right.
Joe Biden never in his life been compared to Marshawn Lynch before up until this moment.
But it's just like, we got.
If he doesn't win, I feel like they should do a new Odd Couple. The two of them would be fun together.
Actually, that would probably be entertaining as hell. I don't know, but
it's just like, to be fair, I just like Marshawn Lynch in anything. I enjoy him.
But I think like Joe is old reliable. Like, he came out of that debate with a 12-point push because he looked like he was stable. He called him on bullshit, just like every person who was at home. Moderates, undecideds were just like, shut up, man. Right about the time that he was like, shut up, man. Like, we were there with him. And I think that brought him out. When he did well, I think everybody in the campaign's like, all right, he ain't going to be the one to screw it up. And then all heads turned to her. And we're like, shit, she's got to go on TV too. All right, don't fuck this up. We thought he was going to be the one. He nailed it. So now you can't fuck this up. And I think more pressure just because Pence is clearly going to be a better debater than Donald Trump is. Like, it's just, he has a better grasp of the issues and politics in general. So
he's also going to play by the rules more. I mean, he did, like interrupt people and keep talking and stuff like that. But more to the point, he was going to play by the, let Kamala speak and then have his time and stuff like that. I do So one thing that just popped in my mind, I don't know who else is necessarily talking about this right now, so this might be a different take for you to think about the debate. But who do you think might have done a better job or a worse job of the people who were being thought of as vice president instead of Kamala that might have done a good job on this debate stage tonight? I mean, I keep thinking that, like, if Elizabeth Warren was there, she would have probably held Pence to account a lot more. There's more of a nice scold that Elizabeth Warren has perfected, that, you know, like, just like when she body bagged Bloomberg at that
debate.
one debate, like, she can deliver something while making it sound truthful without sounding like she's a bitch, basically, which is the thing that all women politicians are avoiding in this world. Is there anyone?
She's also really good at starting by answering the question and then getting to what she wanted to talk about without saying, like, I'm going to start by answering that. Like, she finds a way to weave it all in together. Because, I mean, in reality, it is all woven together. So I think that she's just better at that part of the politics of it. As for anybody else, I mean, like, let's look at the last Democratic debate. Does Bernie do better than Kamala? I don't think so.
I think Bernie has more of a disadvantage in the American people's eye than Kamala does. I feel Kamala is more neutral than Bernie. Bernie is a more you like him or you hate him kind of guy.
Well, and with these questions, I don't think he could have it. It would be very hard for him to toe the president's line on fracking, the Green New Deal, the infrastructure. Like, to see Bernie Sanders sit there and be like, no, fracking should be legal. And I would never see those words come out of his mouth, you know? So, like, this is just not a good match for him. Now, Elizabeth Warren, I could see her saying something along the lines of, we're going to continue to keep things legal the way they are while we move in the direction of a more energy conscious society. And with the hope that these energy sources won't be necessary one day.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think the way you could answer that question if you were Bernie or Elizabeth and you're more to the left than Kamala is you could say something like, well, I'm on this ticket and Joe is the head of the ticket and he wants to continue fracking as it is right now. But we all realize that this is unsustainable over the long run. So, you know, it's one of those things, like, we are not trying to actively get rid of it right now, but at some point it is going to have to go. So, we're going to work in a direction where we can peter out from one system into another rather than just ending it forthright, you know? And that's, you know, for the environmentalists for which fracking is important, I get why you want it to end immediately, but at the same time, you know, like, there has to be some sort of winding down of the system before you can get rid of it. So,
and there's a lot of centrist Republican voters in Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Illinois who are like, oh, so you mean put me out of a job tomorrow, as opposed to my kid's not going to do this job. I know that, but I need to get him to college. So can we stretch it 10 more years to let me get him into a career?
Well, I mean,
and I can go do something else.
Fracking and coal mining is probably similar in that regard. Like, I don't think there's any coal miners who are saying, oh, my child is going to be able to do this too. They all see the writing on the wall. We're more rounding down coal than we are, like, ratcheting it up. So, you know, it's easy to see that's not the future. And I feel like the people who work in fracking right now probably don't think that their job is long for this universe. But, you know, for the time being, Joe Biden is not going to actively try and get rid of it, which I guess is something for them. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I think also that's why Trump and Pence don't score any points in the other direction, because those guys are saying, I would never tell my kid to come into this. This is a dying career. No, of course not. So you don't get points by saying, like, we are going to protect fracking. We are going to expand it. Like, no. Why would you do that? There's only so much oil in the ground. And by the way, we kind of know it causes disastrous environmental stuff, but now I'm 20 years into this. It's all I know how to do. I'm not going to have my kid do it, but I should be able to have a job so I can put him through college. And then we'll talk about me doing something else. I'll go work at a Walmart or something. But I mean, I think also that there's a lot of those things going back to who else would be able to perform. I think Cory Booker might have been better on this stage only because he would not have the walking the fine line of being like a snide bitch,
Yeah.
which all female politicians have to worry about. But at the same time, then I lean to like, he's always thinking what Barack Obama always talked about. Like, I can't be the angry black man. I always have to just like be chill and give answers. But I think also Kamala has that reputation of being like, you talk about it all the time, like questioning people in the Senate and being a bulldog about it. And I think you and a lot of people were looking for her to like go after Pence a little bit. And that's not Biden's style. And she's trying to adopt his way of doing things. So she's not doing that stuff.
See, I don't know even if it was that specifically. It's just that she's great at the back and forth.
Yeah.
The I'm going to give you a little bit of a question, you're going to answer it, and then I'm going to be able to go off of that.
Yeah.
The debate doesn't really work as well in that situation because she can set up. There were plenty of times where she had very solid hits against Trump and Pence for various different things, and Pence would just get his time after that and just straight out lie about what was going. Like at one point, she was just like talking about coronavirus and what a negligent job they've done. And then when it was Pence's time to respond, he was just like, it was our leadership and shutting down China and blah, blah, blah. It's like, if the kill shot where Kamala has made herself good is setting people up into a corner when she's able to like basically cross-examine them.
Yeah.
And you just get them to the point where they don't have anywhere to go except for tell the truth. And that's going to make them look like idiots. So when you don't have the back and forth, that superpower doesn't work as well.
Every election but this one, it would be good. She would be excelling in. But because Trump has been such a bad boy, we had to change the rules. The moderator felt the need to say after every question, you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Yeah.
That's where we are. That these two can't even have like a little bit of a back and forth because afterwards somebody's going to complain about like, well, they didn't let me say anything because Trump actually does that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like clearly both Trump and Pence are following a similar regard of not caring about the rules, even though Pence's remainder every time was if they don't like the rules, they'll just change them.
Yeah.
But, they're just flaunting the rules by just going through it. So I don't know. I just think that I'm not super excited for either one of these people to actually be president if it came to that.
Yeah.
So I hope this is just the political theater of every 4 years we have to watch a vice presidential debate.
Well, let me ask you though, despite that, who would you trust more after this with the seat? Has it changed or?
I mean, I would trust Kamala by a bit. I think she is more reasonable, and I feel like she would be able to do more good with the time that she has. The problem with Pence in my mind is not only is he not a great politician, but he almost feels like a placeholder if he were to become president. Like, if Trump were to get reelected and then die in February, they would just be like, all right, Pence, you have the House, but don't do anything. Just keep everything exactly the way we like it until we can elect somebody new,
Yeah. Or nominate a VP that we choose and then step down and let him take over.
Right. Because, I mean, like, a big problem with this would be the stink of Trump.
Yeah.
Anything, because I'm sure if Pence was president, he would do things very differently than Trump has been doing it. And I feel like he would just by nature be more honest and more forthright about things than Trump would be. I don't know if he'd be more honest or forthright than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris would be, but he would be. Oh,
that's true. Yeah.
He would certainly not be as chaotic as Trump has been.
Yeah.
But I also think that they just don't. He's not trusted in the sense of like he's trusted to lead. He's there because there has to be a vice president. Like they had to pick somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody the opposite side of Trump. I mean, I have the fear of Mike Pence becoming president and then him and Amy Coney Barrett deciding like, let's just go ahead with this whole Handmaid's Tale thing. I mean, like, that was a good example. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
And I don't have that fear with Kamala, but I also have the fear that she is in some ways far more conservative than she looks like. And in other ways, far more liberal than she looks like. And that may just do weird things to the party if she was to be the head of it.
Well, I mean, did you have any other final thoughts? I feel like I've pretty much exhausted my my off the top of my head thoughts about this debate.
I mean, I think we've been more on topic than the actual candidates during the vice presidential debate. So I'm sure that there will be. I'm excited to go switch over and watch some Fox News and see how they are dealing with all of this. And see, I'm sure it's Mike Pence by a landslide on Fox News, but. I just feel like for anybody who's watching this, well, of course, we can come back to this again next week. They can watch live on Monday when we record, or the episode will be up on Tuesday. And barring, more of the West Wing getting COVID and also, a nuclear attack or something, we'll have time to talk about this on Monday with additional thoughts. So
yeah, and I'm sure things will come up between now and then. But definitely the most important thing about this thing was there was a fly on Mike Pence's heads for a while. That's I mean, if we're going to remember anything about this debate 10 years from now, it's going to be this is the fly debate.
And
so,
it pushing my narrative that Mike Pence is in fact undead. He is a corpse. And the flies and the bloodshot eye are all evidence that he is in fact a corpse.
Is it a weekend at Bernie's with Pence?
I don't know.
Did he come from the coronavirus and they just threw him up there and like somebody in a Mike Pence bodysuit?
I feel like we have drastically overestimated zombies, and they actually just come back as a more boring version of themselves, and that's what we got. Like Mike Pence alive was already pretty boring and unimpressive, but Mike Pence undead, even worse. Just boring and unimpressive to the max.
Well, I think we've done good here today. I'm glad we were able to do this little bonus check-in on the VP debate.
I think we've done something. I don't know if it's good.
And just to make it to make it appropriate for the shortened bonus episode, I'll just say you can find me at Legend CB5 at Corey Baker Filmmaker. Go there, be happy, enjoy yourself. Rob has a lot more that he's got to rattle through. So
wait, you got new content. When's your next new content coming up?
I actually am planning something for Friday, so keep an eye out for Friday.
Maybe my 3-minute spiel on Monday night inspired people. You can find me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Check out robertandcheek.com for links to everything that I'm doing, including the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rob Cheek. You can find Everyman Movie Reviews there. The daily podcast, Rob Explains. You can find that at anchor.fm or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And of course, the books, which are available on Amazon.
By Rob's Books.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. I thought we'd skip this part already. But
double dip. Give the people what they want.
As always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem Digital Network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.